All right, let's jump right in today. We're going to be doing a deep dive into Reliance Industries' recent Q2 FY 2025-25 earnings conference call. It's a it's pretty dense stuff, got to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack
But
there.
it's full of fascinating insights into this massive conglomerate.
That's right. Reliance Industries is a pretty big deal, not just in India, but globally too.
Yeah,
And when a company of that scale makes moves, it's worth paying attention.
exactly. And they've got their hands in so many different sectors. It's like, I don't know, they're everywhere in the Indian economy.
You could say that again, from energy to retail to now a huge push in tech.
Right.
What we're going to try to uncover in this deep dive isn't just, their financial performance, but
Yeah.
like the bigger picture too.
Yeah, the strategic decisions that have the potential to impact a whole bunch of industries.
Exactly.
Okay, so first things first. Reliance had kind of a mixed quarter, right? Some divisions were thriving, while others faced some, headwinds.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the global economy for you right now. Things are pretty volatile, right? Energy prices are all over the place, supply chains are still a mess, and consumers are definitely feeling the pinch. But here's the thing. Even with all that going on, Reliance's overall revenue is still up 8% year on year.
Yeah, it's like they're this massive ship navigating a storm, but they're still making headway,
Exactly. So that tells us they're holding their own in a pretty tough environment.
for sure. All right, let's talk about the area that really shined this quarter.
Yeah.
Their digital services segment. We're talking 18% growth in both revenue and EBITDA.
EBITDA, for those who aren't familiar, stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right. So essentially, it gives us a clear picture of a company's operating profitability.
Exactly.
So what's driving this digital success?
Two big things.
Mhm.
The rollout of GeoTrue 5G and the explosion of Geo Air Fiber, their fixed wireless broadband service.
Okay. So GeoTrue 5G, this isn't your run-of-the-mill 5G, right?
Well,
They're implementing some pretty advanced tech here, like voice over 5G and network slicing.
yeah, they're really pushing the boundaries of what 5G can do.
To put it simply, network slicing allows them to create like dedicated bandwidth lanes for different types of traffic.
Yeah, it's like having express lanes on a highway for specific vehicles. Keeps everything moving smoothly.
And then there's Geo Air Fiber, which is, it's adding 1 million homes every single month.
It's remarkable.
That's just mind-boggling. They're already one of the fastest growing fixed wireless providers in the world.
For sure.
So when you think about areas where traditional broadband is either like too expensive or too difficult to install, this could be a game changer. What do you think this means for the future of internet access, especially for those who've been underserved?
Well, that's a great question, and one that we should definitely keep in mind as we watch how this all plays out.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the retail segment. Things were a bit slower there, huh?
Yeah.
It seems like it was impacted by a couple of things, like weak market demand and some of the strategic streamlining decisions that Reliance made.
It's true. The retail sector has been facing some headwinds. I think it's a trend we're seeing across the entire industry, not just specific to Reliance.
Right, it's not just them. But here's what's interesting. Instead of just, riding out the storm, they're trying out some really innovative approaches to reach consumers.
Definitely.
So, for example, they've got this concept called USTA. It's a store format specifically targeting like younger shoppers,
Yeah.
those who are into fast fashion.
Right, trying to cater to the younger demographic.
Yeah. And they're also going all in on hyperlocal deliveries through GeoMart.
Yeah.
Which is all about convenience and speed, right?
Right, which is something that a lot of consumers, especially younger consumers, are looking for these days.
Exactly.
So how do you think these strategies will position Reliance for the future of retail as the landscape continues to change and evolve?
All right, now let's dive into the world of oil and gas, a sector that, as you might expect, faced some headwinds
Yeah, a bit of a roller coaster ride.
due to those fluctuating fuel prices we mentioned earlier.
Definitely. It's been a volatile time for the energy market.
But, even with that, they managed to achieve some pretty impressive EBITDA margins.
They have.
They attributed this success to their operational flexibility and focusing on domestic fuel sales.
Smart move. By prioritizing domestic sales, they're able to kind of mitigate the impact of the global price swings.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And here's something to keep in mind. They're predicting higher gas prices in the coming months
Yeah.
due to, a bunch of global factors, potential winter shortages, things like that.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on.
And that could have some pretty big ripple effects, don't you think?
Absolutely. It just highlights how interconnected the global energy market is, and how important it is for companies to be adaptable.
All right, so we've covered the current state of affairs, but what about the future? What's next on Reliance's agenda?
Well, it seems like they're placing some pretty big bets in two main areas: aggressive expansion of their 5G and air fiber network,
Hmm.
and a major push into, everyone's talking about it, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, sounds like they're aiming for nothing less than market domination in both of those areas.
Yeah, they're setting their sights high. They want to be the leader in 5G and air fiber. And with AI, well, they're developing their own platform called GeoBrain.
GeoBrain, okay.
And they're even going to be launching a cloud storage service that will have built-in AI features.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is. And to really get people's attention, they're offering over 100 gigabytes of free cloud storage to users.
100.
100 gigabytes.
That's way more than like what most of their competitors are offering.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? What's the strategy there?
I think it's a bold move. It could really shake things up. They're basically saying, hey, come store your data with us and we'll make it smarter with AI. Give people a little taste of what AI can do and hope they get hooked.
Okay, so to recap, what have we learned so far? Reliance is navigating a pretty complex economic landscape, right?
Yeah.
They're experiencing a mix of success, but they're also having to adapt. They're clearly not afraid to try new things, especially when it comes to their digital and retail strategies.
They're definitely pushing the envelope.
But here's the question that keeps coming back to me. With these ambitious plans for 5G, air fiber, and AI, are they essentially trying to become the gatekeeper of the entire Indian digital economy?
That's a big question, and one with a lot of implications. And we'll delve into that further in just a moment.
So we were just talking about how Reliance is really pushing into those digital spaces. 5G, air fiber, and AI. They're not like just dipping their toes in the water. They're going all in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just about keeping up anymore. It's about setting the pace. And their digital arm, Geo, is really the one leading the charge.
Yeah, for sure. And from what I gathered from that earnings call, their 5G rollout is going to be a lot more than just faster download speeds, right? They're talking about like a whole other level of technological sophistication.
Geo True 5G. They're calling it that for a reason. It's about those innovations we talked about, the voice over 5G and the network slicing. And those aren't just fancy buzzwords. They're actually fundamentally changing what their network is capable of.
So can we talk about that a little bit more? Because they talked about this thing called advanced interference mitigation.
Okay.
And that, I got to be honest, sounds pretty technical.
Yeah, it is a bit technical, but I'm trying to think of it like a traffic management system, but for your internet. So advanced interference mitigation basically helps optimize the flow of data.
Okay, so it makes sure that even when the network is super busy, everyone is still having a good experience.
Exactly, yeah. And they're also using this technology to improve the user experience in some other pretty interesting ways.
Right.
They even mentioned longer battery life on 5G devices.
Now, that's something I think we can all get behind. No one likes it when their phone dies in the middle of the day.
Right. So by intelligently managing which spectrum bands the devices use, they can actually reduce power consumption, which leads to, significant improvements in battery life. So it's kind of a win-win for users and for the environment.
And then there's Geo Air Fiber.
Right.
Their fixed wireless broadband. And that thing is adding homes at an incredible pace.
1 million homes a month.
It's crazy.
It's pretty remarkable. They've already hit nearly 3 million Geo Air Fiber connections, which makes them one of the fastest growing fixed wireless operators globally. And they're aiming to keep adding another 1 million homes every month.
It's hard to wrap your head around that. And
Right.
what I think is so fascinating is they're using the same 5G network for both mobile and home broadband.
Right?
But doesn't that create like congestion problems?
Well, that's where the network slicing comes in.
Oh, right.
Remember those dedicated lanes on the highway?
Yeah.
Same concept here.
Okay.
They're able to create those like virtual lanes within the network to make sure different types of traffic don't interfere with each other.
So you streaming a movie on Geo Air Fiber isn't going to slow down someone else's video call.
Exactly, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're killing it in the 5G world. But we can't forget about their other digital ambitions as well, right? Like AI and those cloud services.
Yeah, definitely. And GeoBrain is their AI platform, and it's really at the heart of this strategy. They're using it to develop these intelligent services for their own businesses, but then they also plan to offer it as a service to other companies as well.
And they're giving away all that free cloud storage. Over 100 gigabytes.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal, right?
It is. It's a bold move. You have to think about all the possibilities, though, like photos that can organize themselves, Documents that can summarize those key points, bills that pay themselves. AI could really change how we interact with our digital world.
It's almost hard to imagine. Okay, so Reliance is trying to be at the forefront of that AI revolution.
Mm.
Now let's switch gears again. Let's talk about their oil and gas division. That sector has been facing a lot of ups and downs lately.
Yeah, for sure. Between those fluctuating fuel prices and all the geopolitical uncertainty, it's been a challenging environment.
Yeah. But Reliance was still able to achieve those high EBITDA margins.
They did.
And they attributed that success to their operational flexibility and that focus on domestic fuel sales.
Yeah, they're adapting to the market, right?
Yeah.
And they're optimizing their operations to lessen the impact of those global price swings.
Right, yeah. And remember, they're also predicting higher gas prices in the coming months because of all those potential winter shortages.
Right, right.
So that could have some pretty significant implications, not just for them, but for the energy market as a whole.
Definitely. It really emphasizes that interconnectedness of the global energy markets
Yeah.
and how important strategic planning is when there's so much uncertainty.
Before we move on, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. They mentioned receiving some kind of award for their smart water and wastewater management project.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that is noteworthy. It kind of shows their commitment to sustainability and innovation, even in areas outside their core businesses.
Yeah, and it's not just about the profit.
Right. It shows they're thinking about responsible environmental stewardship as well.
It kind of makes you wonder, can big businesses really be a force for good?
That's a great question, and one that's worth thinking about more deeply.
Okay, so let's bring it all back to Reliance's overall strategy. Their digital services, the AI, even the sustainability efforts. It all points to a bigger picture, right?
I think so. They're kind of evolving
Mm-hmm.
from an energy giant into a tech-driven conglomerate.
Yeah, that's it.
They're building this whole ecosystem that encompasses everything from connectivity to data to intelligence. They're not just participating in the digital economy. They want to shape it,
And they're very clearly focused on the domestic market.
especially with the retail and digital services.
Yeah. Which suggests that they are very invested in India's growth story.
Yeah, they're betting on India's future and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
It's a pretty fascinating journey to watch unfold. They're constantly evolving, pushing boundaries, embracing new opportunities.
Yeah, you could say that they're like a microcosm of India's economic transformation. It's a testament to the country's entrepreneurial spirit and that, growing technological influence.
And we know their story isn't over. I think we can expect a lot more from them. But for now, let's step back and think about everything we've talked about today. Their push into 5G, AI, all those integrated digital services, it suggests that they have a vision to become a real power player in the future Indian digital economy, maybe even a gatekeeper.
It's a bold vision, for sure, and it raises some really important questions about the balance between innovation and responsible growth. What are the benefits? What are the risks? We're going to explore all of that as we wrap up our deep dive into Reliance Industries.
Okay, so we've spent, I don't know how long now, exploring Reliance Industries, everything from their recent performance to their strategic bets to their big, ambitions in the tech world.
We've seen some pretty impressive growth in those digital services, their innovative retail strategies, and let's not forget their resilience in the face of, this crazy energy market.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. But as we wrap up here, I want to kind of zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture. What does all of this, what does Reliance's trajectory mean for India, for the economy, for its people? Their growing influence, especially with that push into 5G, AI, all those integrated digital services, it raises some interesting questions.
It does. I mean, we've talked about how they seem to be aiming for, I don't know if you'd call it domination, but a very strong position in the Indian digital economy, for sure.
Yeah, maybe even a gatekeeper of sorts. And with that kind of influence comes a lot of responsibility. So what are the potential upsides and the downsides? I mean,
Yeah.
on the one hand, you could argue that their investments in all this cutting-edge tech, the 5G, the AI, could really accelerate India's digital transformation.
Right.
And that could lead to all sorts of benefits: better connectivity, better digital services, more economic opportunities.
Imagine rural communities finally having access to high-speed internet,
Right.
businesses leveraging AI to boost their productivity, consumers enjoying those seamless digital experiences across the board. It's an exciting vision.
It really is. But we also have to acknowledge the potential downsides of having, so much power concentrated in one company? Could it stifle competition,
It's possible.
limit choices for consumers, maybe even lead to unfair pricing?
Those are all very valid concerns. It's a tough balancing act, right?
Yeah.
You want to encourage innovation and investment, but at the same time, you have to make sure there's a level playing field for everyone.
And it's not even just about the economics. Reliance's push into AI, those data-driven services, that brings up some really crucial questions about data privacy and security.
Absolutely. How do we ensure that these powerful technologies are being used responsibly, ethically?
It's the million-dollar question,
Mm.
and I think it's one that we need to be asking and answering like right now, because these technologies are becoming more and more integrated into our lives every single day.
Yeah, and having these open and honest conversations about their potential impact is crucial.
So it's going to require a lot of collaboration. Policymakers, industry leaders, even just regular citizens, to figure out the right approach and establish those guidelines and regulations that both protect people's rights and, still allow room for innovation.
Exactly. The decisions we make today are going to shape the future of India's digital economy, and there's no doubt Reliance's actions will play a big role in that story.
All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Reliance Industries, I want to leave our listeners with a bit of a challenge. Keep learning, stay informed, and engage in those conversations about the kind of digital future we want to build. Because it's not preordained. It's something that we create together.
And asking those tough questions.
Yeah, asking the tough questions, figuring out the trade-offs, where do we draw the lines? That's how we build a better future.
Well said.